Have you ever looked at two companies with the exact same access to talent, the exact same tech stacks, and literally the exact same market, yet one of them just completely outperforms the other? It's an incredibly common frustration. Leaders buy all the right resources, hire the absolute best people, and still find their organizations severely underperforming. So why exactly does this happen?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding a fascinating, paradigm-shifting approach from the BCS research group called the Executive Developmental Intelligence Instantiation, or thankfully, EDI for short. This isn't your standard management consulting framework, and it's definitely not some generic corporate training day. It's a live diagnostic designed to reveal the hidden, latent capacity that is already trapped inside your organization. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at capacity versus capability. Second, the process breakdown. Then, 4 core questions, the EDII live experience, coherent cognition, and we'll wrap up with bounded risk.
Starting with Section 1, Capacity versus Realized Capability.
Now, capacity is simply what your organization possesses. It's your talent, your explicit knowledge, your cutting-edge technology. But capability, that is what it actually does, the coordinated action that produces an intended effect. Think of your organization like a giant engine. Adding more capacity, like, say, hiring a new executive or buying flashy new enterprise software, is literally just pouring more fuel into the tank. Capability is the actual horsepower that engine generates. And if the engine's conversion process is fundamentally flawed, pouring in more fuel doesn't make the car go faster, right?
So the crucial point here is understanding what we call the realization gap. This is the structural space between the dormant capacity you possess and the realized capability you actually produce. It is absolutely vital to understand that this gap is structural. It's a flaw in the collective conversion system itself. Actually, scratch that. It's never about having bad people. You don't have bad people. You just have an incomplete process of interpretation, decision, and creation.
Moving right along to Section 2, the conversion process breakdown. Let's see where this actually fails.
And this brilliantly illustrates the mechanics of that conversion engine using a mathematical concept called conservation geometry. The equation is beautifully simple. C plus L plus D equals 1. Your organization's state at any given moment is a mix of 3 things: coherence, which is your alignment, latency, which is your unused hidden capacity, and distortion, representing unresolved contradictions and friction. Because the whole shebang always equals exactly 1, mathematically the only way to increase your coherence, your actual realized capability, is by actively minimizing the latency and the distortion in your system.
The underlying research specifies a governing invariant for this. Delta C must be greater than or equal to 0. Now, to put that formal concept into pure, everyday business reality, it basically means a healthy organizational system has to continually preserve and expand its capacity over time. It must perpetually convert its unused, dormant potential into concrete action. Otherwise, it just stagnates. That brings us to Section 3, 4 core diagnostic questions. Let's interrogate this process. Question 1. How much capacity remains unrealized? I really want you to completely reframe your thinking here. Stop asking the traditional question, who do we need to hire next, and start asking, what existing, dormant expertise already lives in our team but literally never reaches our decision-making table? That right there is pure, trapped latency. Question 2. How effectively is explicit knowledge utilized at the moment of decision? Challenge yourself on this one. Is your documented institutional memory, your operational experience, and your very expensive data genuinely accessible right when critical choices are being made? Or is it just sitting in some siloed database somewhere, completely disconnected from the moment of execution?
Okay, question 3. How effectively is implicit knowledge converted into collective capability? Now, this is arguably the most massive source of latency in modern business. Think about all the unspoken judgment, the intuitive pattern recognition, and the tacit expertise trapped inside the minds of your seasoned executives. If that implicit knowledge isn't systematically converted into collective action, well, you're acting on a tiny fraction of what you actually possess.
And question 4. How is AI currently participating in the conversion process? Because there's a profound difference between merely using AI as a high-speed search tool operating totally outside your workflow versus genuinely integrating it within your collective cognition to actively amplify what your team can produce.
Next up, Section 4, the EDI Live Experience. Let's talk about the 2-day diagnostic.
Let's move to and see how this builds over a 2-day structure.
It starts with the executive team bringing a real, current strategic challenge to the table. In step 1, day 1, the focus is surfacing. The forum operates under this BCS 2.0 testbed architecture, and suddenly, hidden expertise begins to surface. Contradictions that normally just look like messy interpersonal friction are cleanly reframed as structural signals. Then in step 2, day 2, we hit comparison and realization. The team runs their existing architecture side by side with the alternative one on the exact same problem space. And boom, the realization gap, the exact process limitations holding them back, becomes undeniably visible right in front of them.
Section 5. The Architecture of Coherent Cognition. Let's look at the science behind this.
The power of this system is fundamentally architectural. It is built directly on the controlled BCS 2.0 testbed, which formally evaluates recursive collective cognition. By reframing friction into structural signals, it proves that the environment is doing the heavy lifting here. It's a reproducible architecture of governing conditions. It's specifiable, it's transferable, and that clearly distinguishes it from personality-dependent management consulting, where basically everything relies on the charisma of the specific individual leading the room.
Finally, Section 6, the bounded risk proposition. Let's touch on the commercial realities.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the explicitly bounded risk. You bring up to 20 senior executives into a live forum. The cost is strictly capped based on team size, maxing out at $12,500. But more importantly, payment is only due upon the participants' confirmation of usefulness. Literally, the client only pays if they step back, observe the comparison, and genuinely find the architecture useful for unlocking their own specific organizational context. That is a massively confident proposition.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this absolutely brilliant quote from Murat Mertolu. The challenge may not primarily be scarcity. The challenge may be unrealized abundance. It is a total paradigm shift. We have to stop assuming we lack the resources to succeed. Instead, I want you to ask yourself exactly how much untapped potential, unvoiced expertise, and dormant capacity is currently hidden within your own organizational structure, just waiting for the right architecture to set it free. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and keep questioning your own capacity.